"Leave me. I'm broken, worth nothing, forgotten," she begged, but the human wrapped her in his arms like she was treasure. The market smelled of rust and fear. Dim yellow lights flickered above the long hallway, casting shadows over cages stacked against the walls. Chains clinked softly whenever one of the products moved. The traders liked calling them products, but everyone knew they were people, broken people. At the far end, in the smallest cage, sat a girl. She was not like the others. She didn't beg. She didn't shout. She didn't even look at the crowd. Her knees were pulled tightly to her chest. Her thin arms wrapped around them. Dirt covered her skin, and her tangled hair hid most of her face. She was barefoot, and her clothes were nothing more than torn rags. Whispers floated from one trader to another. "That one? Worthless. She doesn't work, doesn't speak." Even her own people gave her away for free. Every few minutes, someone would stop to look at her, only to frown and move on. Some spat at the floor. Others laughed under their breath. She didn't react to any of it. Until the footsteps came. They were heavier than the others. Calm, slow, measured. She lifted her head just a little, peeking through her messy hair. A tall figure walked toward her cage. The crowd around him shifted, some curious, some confused. It wasn't often that a human came here. The man stopped in front of her cage. His eyes met hers. She quickly looked away. "Don't touch me," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm dirty, useless, shameful." Her words were almost too soft to hear, but the man didn't look away. He didn't laugh like the others. He didn't insult her. He simply crouched down, studying her face. Behind him, the trader in charge chuckled. "You don't want that one, human. She's broken, can't work, won't even talk. I've tried to sell her for weeks. Nothing." The man didn't answer. He stood up and reached for his credit pouch. The trader blinked. "Wait, you're serious?" The man handed over a stack of credits. More than the cage was worth, far more. The trader's eyes went wide with greed. "She's yours then." "Don't say I didn't warn you." The cage door creaked open. For the first time, the girl moved backwards. "I won't go," she said quickly, her voice cracking. "You bought me. You'll hurt me." The man stepped inside the cage, slowly, like one would approach a frightened animal. "I didn't buy you to hurt you," he said quietly. "I'm taking you home." The word home made her chest ache. She didn't even remember what that felt like. "I have no home," she whispered. "Then I'll give you one." Before she could speak again, he gently offered his hand. She stared at it, as if touching it might burn her. "You'll be safe," he said. Her heart pounded. She didn't know why, but his voice didn't sound like the others. It didn't have the cold, sharp tone of a trader. It didn't carry the cruel amusement of those who had owned her before. It was steady, warm, dangerous in a way she didn't understand. Slowly, almost against her will, she reached out. Her fingers trembled as they touched his. His hand closed around hers, not tight, not forceful, just enough to guide her out of the cage. The hallway felt bigger now, and every pair of eyes followed them. Some traders looked annoyed that she was leaving. Others smirked as if they knew something she didn't. "You'll regret it, human," one called out. "She's nothing but trouble." The man didn't respond. He led her past the rows of cages, past the smell of rust and fear, and into the cold night air. The market's noise faded behind them. Outside, under the pale light of 2 moons, she realized this was the first time in years she had seen the open sky. She stopped walking. "What is this?" she asked quietly. "It's freedom," he replied. Her stomach twisted. Freedom didn't exist. Not for people like her. But he kept walking, and her feet followed before her mind could stop them. They reached a small starship parked on the edge of the landing zone. It wasn't shiny or new. The metal was scratched and dented. But it looked alive, like it had a purpose. He opened the hatch and turned to her. "Get in," she hesitated. "What if you're lying?" "Then you'll have to trust me until you know for sure." She stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. For a moment, the walls felt too close, reminding her of cages. But there was no lock on the inside. No chains. He moved past her to the cockpit. "Sit wherever you like." She stayed near the door, watching him start the engines. The hum of the ship felt different from the buzz of the market. It was quieter, calmer as the ship lifted off. She clutched the edge of her seat, her heart racing. She didn't know where he was taking her. She didn't know why he wanted her. But for the first time in years, she felt something strange. It wasn't fear. Not exactly. It was the smallest, most fragile spark of hope. The ship's engines hummed softly as the stars stretched into long white lines. The girl sat close to the wall, her knees tucked under her chin, watching the human at the controls. She still didn't believe him. Nobody did something like this. For free. Finally she asked, "Why did you take me?" He didn't look away from the stars ahead. "Because you needed to leave that place." "That's not an answer," she whispered. Before he could reply, a sharp buzz filled the cockpit. The comm screen lit up with a traitor's face, the same man who had sold her. His voice was cold, his smile thin. "Human, I think we have a misunderstanding," the traitor said. "The girl you took, she's special. She's not for sale anymore. Return her, and I'll give you double the credits back." The human didn't even blink. No. The traitor's smile turned into a sneer. "You don't understand. She belongs to someone important, someone dangerous. If you keep her, you're as good as dead." The girl's breath caught. She knew who the traitor meant. The thought of that man finding her made her hands shake. She stood up quickly. "Give me back, now. You don't know what will happen if you don't." The human finally looked at her. "I'm not giving you to anyone." She clenched her fists. "Why?" "You don't even know me." "Because I don't have to know you," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I just know you've been treated like property long enough. That ends here." The traitor's voice rose in anger through the comm. "This is your last chance, human." Without a word, the man reached forward and shut off the transmission. The screen went black. The girl stared at him in disbelief. "You're going to get yourself killed." He adjusted the controls, his eyes on the stars. "Maybe, but I'd rather die doing the right thing than live as a coward." The silence between them grew heavy. She didn't know if he was brave or just stupid. Hours passed. She stayed awake, too tense to sleep. Every sound from the ship made her jump. She kept expecting to see another ship appear outside the window. Finally, her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. He noticed, "There's food in the back," he said. She shook her head. "I'm not hungry." He didn't argue. He simply got up, walked to the small galley, and returned with a bowl of warm soup. He placed it on the small table between them. "Eat," he said simply. She stared at it. Steam curled into the air, carrying a smell that made her chest ache. She remembered the last time she'd eaten something warm. It was so long ago, she couldn't picture it clearly. Her hands trembled as she picked up the spoon. She ate slowly, each bite both comforting and painful. When she finished, she whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't smile. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, "Because when I saw you in that cage, I saw someone who still had a fight left in them. Even if they didn't believe it yet." She didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever spoken to her like that. Just as she opened her mouth, the ship's alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the cockpit. He jumped back into the pilot's seat. Scanning the radar, her heart sank. 3 ships were behind them, closing fast. The human's jaw tightened. "Looks like your important friend found us." She grabbed the back of his chair, fear clawing at her chest. "Turn me in, please. It's not worth dying for." He looked at her once, his eyes hard but not unkind. "You're wrong. You're worth it." The stars outside shifted as the ship banked sharply. The hum of the engines grew louder. Behind them, the enemy ships followed. The chase had begun. The ship shook as it dove through the asteroid field. Metal groaned around them. Small rocks slammed into the hull, sending sharp vibrations through the floor. The girl clung to the back of the pilot's chair, her knuckles white. The human's voice was steady. "Hang on, we'll lose them in here." "Lose them?" she cried. "These rocks will tear us apart." A large asteroid spun past the window, so close she could see the cracks running across its surface. One wrong move, and they would be nothing but dust. The radar beeped again, 3 red dots still following. The enemy ships were faster and smaller, weaving through the rocks with dangerous skill. The girl's chest tightened. She knew those pilots. They wouldn't stop until they caught her. Another sharp turn nearly threw her to the floor. She stumbled, catching herself on the wall. That's when she saw it, smoke, thin but growing, drifting from the side panel of the cockpit. "Something's burning." She shouted. The human didn't look away from the controls. "Left power relay." "I can't fix it right now." Her pulse raced. "If it fails, what happens?" "We'll drift. And drifting in here means we're dead." She froze. In her past, when something broke, she would wait for orders or punishment. She had never been trusted to fix anything important, but he wasn't even looking at her. He was trusting her without asking. Her hands shook as she dropped to the floor, pulling open the side panel. Sparks burst out, making her flinch. The heat stung her skin, but she forced herself to keep going. "What do I do?" she yelled. "Bypass the main conduit," he called back. "Blue wire to the secondary port. Then reroute power through the backup regulator." She had no idea what half those words meant, but she searched, found the blue wire, and yanked it free. The ship jolted hard, but the engine's hum steadied again. "Got it," she shouted. "Hold it there," he replied. She pressed the connection into the port. A bright spark made her gasp, but then silence. The burning smell faded. The control lights stopped flashing red. The human risked a glance at her. "Nice work." Her chest swelled with something she couldn't name. No one had ever told her that before. Another asteroid loomed ahead, this one massive, spinning slowly. In the void, he banked the ship hard, sliding into the shadow of the rock. The enemy ships zipped past on the other side, missing them completely. The girl held her breath until the radar showed empty space. They were alone. The human leaned back, exhaling for the first time in minutes. "We made it." She let go of the wire, her hand still trembling. "I helped?" "You saved us," he said simply. Her throat tightened. She didn't know why those words made her eyes burn. Silence fell again, but it wasn't the same as before. It wasn't heavy or full of fear. It was strange, almost warm. She moved to sit in the co-pilot seat. For the first time, she looked out at the stars, not as a prisoner being moved from one cage to another, but as someone moving towards something unknown. She didn't trust him fully yet. She didn't trust anyone, but she wanted to. Far away, in the black emptiness of space, the hunter ships regrouped. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. The hum of the engines was steady now. Outside, stars drifted by like tiny sparks in an endless black ocean. The girl sat in the co-pilot's seat, her eyes fixed on them. She didn't speak much, but she didn't curl into the wall anymore. She sat straighter. The human glanced at her. "You handled that relay like you've been fixing ships all your life." She shook her head. "No, I've only fixed broken cages." He didn't laugh. He didn't say it as a joke. "Then maybe you were just in the wrong place all along." Her chest tightened at that. Nobody had ever said she belonged anywhere, but even now she kept her distance. Whenever he passed by her in the narrow corridor, she pressed herself to the wall, making sure their shoulders never touched. Whenever he handed her something, she waited until his fingers were gone before taking it. The truth was simple touch meant pain. Always had. Always would. Late that night, the cold crept into the ship. She wrapped her thin arms around herself, teeth chattering. She thought about asking for another blanket, but the words stuck in her throat. She heard footsteps. He appeared from the cockpit, holding a folded blanket. Without a word, he stepped close and draped it over her shoulders. Her whole body tensed. "Don't," she started, but stopped. His touch was different. There was no shove, no grip, no force, just warmth. He didn't linger, he stepped back, letting her keep the blanket without a fight. She stared at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Don't touch me. I'm shameful." He met her eyes without hesitation. "To me, you're precious." The words hit her harder than any blow she had taken. She didn't know why her throat felt tight or why she couldn't look away from him. Before she could respond, the ship's console lit up with a sharp, urgent tone. The human rushed to the cockpit, scanning the screen. "We've got company." She followed slowly, her stomach sinking. 3 red dots blinked on the radar. Again, the enemy had found them, and this time, they were closer. The red dots on the radar grew larger. Closer. The human's hands moved quickly over the controls. "Strap in." The girl froze. "It's them," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I told you they'd come. You have to give me back." "Not happening," he said without looking at her. Her pulse raced. "You don't understand. If they catch me, they won't just kill you. They'll make you wish you were dead." He glanced at her once, eyes steady. "If they catch you, they'll take you back to the cage." "That's worse." The ship jolted as laser fire streaked past the hull. A warning light flashed across the console. The human swerved into a tight turn, but the pursuing ship stayed close. Weaving through space with deadly precision, her hands gripped the seat so hard they hurt. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was low but unshakable. "I know enough, and that's all I need." The comm system beeped. A voice, deep and familiar, filled the cockpit. "Return the girl," it said, "and I might let you live." The girl's blood went cold. She knew that voice. She had heard it in her nightmares. Her chest tightened. "Turn me in," she begged. "Please, you can still get away." "No," the human said. Laser fire struck the side of the ship. The impact threw her forward against her straps. Warning alarms screamed. "Shields at 20%. The computer's voice announced. The human cursed under his breath. "Hold on." He pushed the throttle to maximum, diving into the rings of a nearby planet. Ice chunks and rock fragments spun around them, reflecting the enemy's red lasers. The ship shook violently, but the enemy still followed, the girl's heart pounded. She wanted to close her eyes and disappear. But then she saw it. The human's hands on the controls, steady even as everything shook. His jaw tight, his eyes sharp. He wasn't afraid. She didn't understand how. Another blast hit. The lights flickered. Sparks burst from the ceiling. The smell of burning wires filled the air. Main power failing, the computer warned. The human gritted his teeth, adjusting controls manually. "We're almost clear." A massive explosion ripped through the back of the ship. The sound was deafening. The cockpit filled with smoke. Her vision blurred. The world spun. The last thing she heard was the human shouting her name before everything went black. The first thing she heard was the steady beep. Beep, beep of a medical scanner. The second thing was silence, deep, heavy silence, broken only by that sound. Her eyes fluttered open. White lights glowed dimly above her. The air smelled clean, almost sterile, but with a faint metallic tang. This wasn't the ship. Panic rushed through her. She pushed herself up, then froze. Beside her, on the next bed, lay the human. His face was pale, his chest wrapped in blood-stained bandages. An oxygen mask covered his mouth and nose. His arm was strapped to his side, wires and tubes running from it to nearby machines. She blinked rapidly. "No, no, no," her voice cracked. She didn't even notice the small figure entering the room until it spoke. "You're awake," said a rough voice. She turned sharply. A short, broad alien in patched clothes stood in the doorway, holding a data pad. His green eyes studied her. "Where am I?" she demanded. "Safe for now," he replied. "We pulled you out of a dead ship. Engines gone. Hull split. He was holding onto you when we found you." Her gaze snapped back to the human. The memory hit her. The explosion, the smoke, his voice calling her name before darkness swallowed everything. She swallowed hard. "Is he alive?" "Barely," the alien said. "You should know. He refused to let us take him to medical first. Said he came first." Her throat closed. She stayed beside his bed, gripping the thin blanket. For hours she didn't move. She thought of all the people who had owned her before, all the traders, all the buyers. None of them had risked anything for her. He had risked everything. The alien returned once more, frowning at her. "Why's he protecting you? You're not his family. Not his crew, not his kind." She stared at the human's still face. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think I want to be." That night, she didn't sleep. She watched the rise and fall of his chest, the way his fingers twitched slightly in his dreams. Once, his breathing faltered, and she panicked, grabbing his hand instinctively. Her fingers tightened around his. "Don't you dare leave me," she murmured. The machines kept beeping. Slowly, his heartbeat steadied. She didn't let go. By the time the lights outside shifted to morning mode, her mind was made up. If he woke up, she wasn't leaving him. Not ever. The door opened suddenly, and the alien from before stepped in again, this time with panic in his eyes. "They found us," he said, "and they're coming fast." The sirens wailed through the medical bay, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat. The girl's grip tightened around the human's hand. "You can't move him," she told the short alien who'd brought the news. "If we don't move him, we all die," the alien snapped. "Those ships will be here in minutes." Her chest burned. She looked at the human, still pale, still breathing shallowly. "He saved me," she thought. "Now it's my turn." She stood up, her knees shaking but her voice steady. "Get his stretcher ready. I'll get us out." The alien stared at her like she'd lost her mind. You can barely stand." She moved past him to the doorway. "Then, I'll crawl if I have to." The docking bay was chaos. Crew members shouted orders, engines roared. Crates slid across the floor as the station shuddered under distant weapons fire. She spotted a small shuttle, old, patched, but functional. She ran to it, every step echoing with fear and determination. "Hey!" the alien from the med bay shouted, pushing the stretcher toward her. The human lay on it, still unconscious, his head tilted slightly toward her, as if he knew she was there. With the alien's help, she secured him inside the shuttle. The moment the hatch closed, she jumped into the pilot's seat. Her hands hovered over the controls. She remembered the blue wire in the relay, the bypass, the feeling when she'd saved the ship before. She could do this. The shuttle's engines came alive with a low rumble. She guided it out of the dock just as enemy ships burst into view, their weapons glowing hot. Lasers sliced through the blackness. She weaved, heart pounding, trusting her instincts and the human's earlier teachings. A blast grazed the hull, warning lights flared, but she pushed the shuttle into the debris field from an old wreck. Metal chunks spun around them, masking their movement. The enemy ships circled the field, but didn't follow inside. The wreckage was unstable, risky. For the first time, the silence of deep space returned. She exhaled shakily and turned toward the stretcher. The human's eyelids fluttered open. His gaze found hers, weak but certain. "You flew us out?" he asked, voice rough. She nodded. "I wasn't going to let them take you." His lips curved into the smallest smile. "Told you, you're worth it." Her throat tightened. She moved closer, taking his hand not because she had to, but because she wanted to. "You gave me a home," she whispered. "Now I'm staying." He closed his eyes again, but this time it wasn't from pain. It was peace. Days later, the shuttle floated in open space, repaired and quiet. She worked on the navigation console while he rested in the co-pilot's seat. "Where to?" he asked. Softly. She looked at the endless stars and smiled faintly. "Somewhere no one knows us, somewhere we start over." He nodded. "Together." She reached over, adjusting his blanket, her fingers brushing his hand without fear. For the first time since she could remember, she wasn't dirty. She wasn't useless. She wasn't shameful. She was home. And in the silent dark between the stars, that was enough.